Hi everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. Let me know if you can hear me okay, if everything is working well, because this is my second time doing this alone, so I might make mistakes still. Um, yeah, I'm not sure why would anyone buy followers. That's very lame. You should just do it yourself, and that's it. Awesome. Good to hear. So, for anyone that's new here, my name is Cynthia. I'm an animator at Axis Studios. I worked on Spirited Untamed last year. I graduated I can't even remember when it was, mid 2019. And I've been giving feedback for about, I think this is either my third or fourth year because I was doing it at AM before. Sin, yes, that's me. um, we started this channel with Daniel Stewart and Madison Irwin to basically give back a little bit more to the community and not just to the AM community. So we're giving feedback. We have a set of students that we give feedback to each week. And then if there's time at the end of the stream, we will open it for more people who want feedback. So if you want feedback and you're not part of our set of students, stick to the end. If there's time, I will open it. I think there might be some time in this stream, so we'll see. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free to post them in the chat. I'll keep an eye out for that. Hey Maya, and yeah. Oh, this Saturday, don't miss the stream at 1 p.m. PST. Join us because we have the best guest ever, Ray Ross. He's an amazing animator. He was a supervisor at Blue Sky. He worked at Disney. Now he's going to work at Illumination McGuff. And he's a mentor at AM. He's the mentor at AM. He teaches class 4, which is Introduction to Acting, and he just changes your life. He basically teaches you how to think like an animator. So if you want to hear an amazing human speak, join us this Saturday at 1 p.m. PST, which is also 9 p.m. UK and 5 p.m. Argentina time, if you're interested. Um, I I would rather you use Sync Sketch rather than the Campus, just because I feel it's easier. And sometimes with the Campus, I forget to publish it, to post it, and then all the comments are lost. So if you can post it to Sync Sketch, that'd be great. But don't post any links yet because I'm gonna lose them for sure, and I don't know if I'm gonna open for feedback. Yeah, Rayro is amazing. We love him. So let me share my screen and let's start with feedback. So I'm hoping everyone is able to see my screen. So first we have Anush. I'm basically going to review them in the uh, time you post in the order that you posted, and also let me share all the links for everyone who might be new here. So we have a Discord and Instagram where we post everything, and we also have a YouTube channel where we uh, post all of the videos in case Twitch deletes them. So feel free to follow us everywhere. Join our Discord. There you can also post your links for feedback if you want for everyone else to see, or if we have time during the week and we're free and we're bored, we might do it too. But yeah, those are the main links. So let's start with this. So we have here a set of exercises. Most of them are what at AM would be considered class 1. I think, yeah. And then there's one that would be considered class 2. So I'm going to review some of them, not all of them, just because some of them are basically walks. And so I feel like with giving notes on one, Anush, you'll be able to apply those notes and use them in the other walks, which is much more useful than me going through all the walks, because then you can't know if you actually learned from the notes. So, hey Ranjit, nice to see you. So, and then we have a few poses, which is always fun to check out. So, let me uh, let me just see the first one. I think it was up to here. So for the first one, I was already checking it out. That's why there's some notes in there. And so far, I think it's working really, really well. I have minimal notes for you. This is a really good exercise. So the few notes that I have are basically first, uh, put a ground plane so that we see when the balls hit, so where the balls hit. Because right now, with the motion blur and the fact that there's no ground, it's very hard and you need to remember where the ground is. So it's better to visually have it there and it's much easier. And I would also remove all motion blur. When you're doing exercises that are the basics, I would not use any motion blur because then it doesn't allow you to actually see what's happening frame by frame. Oh no, the Discord link has expired. Thank you for letting me know. I'll post another one right now. See, this is great. People let me know when things are not working. Okay, that one should work. If it doesn't, please let me know. I need to go change it everywhere else that I posted it. Thanks for checking. So yeah, no motion blur. That would be ideal. So if you're going to keep working on this, remove it, and then it will be easier for us to understand where the balls actually are in space. Then something that some people tend to do because it's basic physics is right now all the balls hit exactly at the same time. In terms of math and physics, this is correct. Awesome, thanks for letting me know. This is correct. Everything hits at the same time. In animation, we try to push a little bit more so that we don't follow reality one to one and we push the physics so that it reads better and we can feel the weight better. Because basically, what you've done here is an exercise not only in timing and spacing, but in weight, because you have different uh, balls that weigh a different amount. So, what I would do, and also the reason why this is not ideal to have them all hit at the same time is that your spacing for each ball is exactly the same. So right now, if I see this, considering how long it takes the balls to move, how far each are moving in each frame, they all weight the same. In animation. In physics, this could be different, but right now, they all weight the same. So what I would challenge you to do if you want to do this, because I know that you have another exercise I gave you feedback on. I personally would apply the notes on this so that you can um, see how much you can push this. Is for the heavy ball, which this seems to be the heaviest out of the five of them, I would push the spacing so that it hangs a lot more at the top. So there's a few frames where it will barely, just pixels start moving down. The reason for this is the heavier the object, the longer it will take for gravity to start affecting it. So because it's so heavy, gravity will affect it, but it won't be that much at the beginning. So it will barely move. And then as you can see here with the spacing that I drew out, basically, oops, if I can draw a straight line, which won't be very possible, what I'm doing is basically making it very tight at the top and then gradually starting to increase that spacing and then very fast increase it. The reason for this is once gravity starts affecting the heavy object, is going to affect it a lot. So this is going to increase a lot faster than with a light ball, because a light ball, the it won't have that much effect also on the, how do I say it, the friction of the air won't affect it that much, and so the light ball will just kind of float around, kind of like what happens with a balloon. So what you can do is try this spacing that I drew here in red, where the ball will land around frame 14. Yes, they will hit at different times, but that's going to make it feel much, much heavier. Then what you have afterwards works perfectly on the heavy ball. So that's the main thing that I would do on that heavy one. Just tweak the spacing and no motion blur so that you can actually see what's happening. On the light ball, which I'm guessing the lightest one is this one, just because of partially the spacing and also the style, um, the visual style. I think how it drops, you can have it drop in more frames. So basically, adding more frames to all of this bounces, like I said here. Where is it? Basically, what I want to challenge you on is making that ball even lighter. Because right now, it's very, very close to this one. And so we don't see that much difference. When I was doing this exercise in class one, my mentor said to put very contrasting style of balls. So one would be like a bowling ball, like you have here, and the other one he said a ball filled with helium. Don't go overboard because I went super helium and it was floating a lot. So it has to be like, let's say half of that ball is filled with helium. And the way that you can portray that is basically adding more frames to this so that it drops lighter. The same idea of spacing gradually getting bigger will hold, but each spacing might feel slightly even just because you have more frames. So for this, I would maybe add when does it land in frame 15? Um I would maybe add 10 frames to this one and then adjust all the other bounces so that they match accordingly. And see how that feels. And then I marked a few parts where things are working well and others where you can tweak it. So for example, here, if we see where this frame, what we call it frame before contact is, and the frame after contact, this is your contact, this is perfect. Why? Because the frame after contact is lower than the frame before. What this means is the ball is losing energy. Perfect. That's what we want. However, if we go to a few of this, for example, this ball, if you see these two are pretty much the same. So I would lower the frame after contact. And the same happens a little bit later. I think it's around here. Yeah. No, hang on. Oh, I lost where I put it. Oh, here in this one. These two are also the same at the same height. So this one, this frame needs to be lower so that we see the gradual loss of energy. For these four first balls, all of these ones, I would add more micro bounces at the end. Right now, when I play it through, what's happening is most of the balls, sorry, this one actually works really well. These two work. These three add more bounces at the end. And I'm not saying like very, very big bounces. It could be just 2 or 3 more tiny, tiny, tiny bounces. Because right now what's happening is that they just stop flat. They were going at a certain height and they just stopped. So especially the light bulb. The light bulb is going to have a lot more micro bounces because, again, filled with air. So there's not that much is it friction with the air so that the air is not really stopping it that much, so it's going to be able to bounce a lot more. But particularly this one, if we see how high it went the last time, it went all of that space. All of that space is way too much for it to suddenly stop. It needs to bounce at least 3 more times every time more and more smaller. um Air resistance, thank you, that sounds way better than friction. Thank you for correcting my English. um so that spacing doesn't feel so big. It has to gradually um, end. Same thing for the middle one. I think. Oh, and the other thing that I would suggest if you're gonna work on this is to do a version of at least one ball. If you want it, it can be the medium one, or if you want to do two, the very light one and the very heavy one, where they travel in space. Because right now, this is very good. They are in place, but I would like to see how you tackle them moving forward in space and how they gradually stop. And whatever ball you use, it has to have a texture so that we can see how it rolls. Because a lot of people have problems and struggle with how the ball rolls, and sometimes it feels like it's sliding rather than rolling. So if you're gonna do something like this, I would recommend also doing it forward in space. Did that make sense? Do you need me to go over anything else before I move on to the next one? Or if you have any questions or thoughts? Perfect. Okay, let's go to this one. For this one, I didn't write any notes, but it's okay. I can do them right here. Cool. Cool. I do have some notes on the tail overlap, but let me look at the pendulum. Okay. So this is just a suggestion that I'm gonna give you, and you don't have to do it, but this is how, yeah, and how to avoid things looking stiff, which was kind of what I was going to go to. Because right now it's going up and down, so it doesn't leave you a lot of room for the pendulum to actually move that much because it's just moving up and down. And when you're moving up and down, it's not going to move that much. And in animation, we try to avoid straight lines unless there's a very good reason for it. Where, I don't know, someone, let's say you're doing an acting shot and someone is emphasizing something, then you can have a straight line going vertically down. But verticals and horizontals, we try to, and 90-degree angles, we try to avoid them because they look very kind of machine made. So, what you can do is when this one is going up, what if it's not only going up, but it's also translating a little bit to the right and then back to the left? And then it stays, it can come back to this position and then do the same, but then to the left and to the right. That's going to allow you to play with the pendulum a little bit more and the follow through as it moves. And I think that's going to make it more interesting. You can also play with the tilt on the base so that it goes like this when it travels to the side instead of just like this, for example. So I would try that um, because it's going to change how this pendulum works and it's going to make it less stiff and it's also going to be more of a challenge for an exercise like this. So basically, try to add curves to the movement. Curves are our friends. We love arcs. Arcs are everything. So, in terms of how the pendulum moves itself, oh my gosh, yeah, I was going to go about like when I get to the tail, grease pencil is your best friend. I personally hate grease pencil. I use blue pencil too. I can send you guys the link. It's a paid plugin, but if you use grease pencil a lot and it crashes or it causes black screens, which it might because it sucks, this tool is the best next thing. Yes, it costs money, but I've been using it for the past 4 years. So this price is nothing. If you divide it by the amount of years, yeah, grease pencil sucks. For me, it at work I couldn't install this. Now I think I have a method, but they basically don't allow us to download things because of security, of course. And grease pencil, I put my grease pencil, I play blast. When I come back, it's gone. It's visibly gone. Where? I don't know. So yeah, you can also do it on Sing Sketch and then do it on grease pencil. I personally use blue pencil too for a lot of things. So I prefer to do it on Maya, but whatever works for you. For me, I prefer to do it in Maya because for my lip sync, I do all of my analysis in Maya. I write down everything that I need in Maya. Then with this one, you can also uh, basically cut the drawing wherever you want and move it around if you need it. So if you're planning something and you're drawing it and you're like, oh no, this should be more to the left, you don't have to delete it and start again. You just move it. So no, the feedbacks, it's like this. For the feedback sessions, the way they work is we have 9 sets of students that we give feedback to every week. At the end of each stream, if there is time, we will open it for more feedback. It's not just for AM, it's for everyone. I will probably either tell you to post the links on Discord or here in the chat, but at the very, very end of the stream, because if you post the link now, I will miss it and forget about it because I know myself. So just wait till the end. If there's time, I will review. And if not, if you want to join Discord, feel free to post it there. Anyone can give you good feedback there. So yeah, I personally recommend this instead of grease pencil, or do what Dan said and do it in Sing Sketch. You can download your drawings and put them into Maya. That's perfectly fine, whatever works for you. But yeah, for this exercise in particular, the tail, it's way easier to draw it first and then animate it. So a lot of times, the way that you can tackle animation is just by doing a quick 2D drawing. And I can't draw, but I can draw a line. So for overlap, it's very, very easy. So let me just double check something. I think overall the pendulum feels pretty okay. I'm going to just go over this last one because this one is the one that really stands out for me. So here what's happening is when this, let's call it squirrel, touches the base, all of the other joints are moving. I personally would try to keep this a little bit more center so that it's not really that affected and so that we can see how first only this joint is being affected. So it will look something like this. Why? So that we can feel each part being affected one after the other. So it's breaking up the motion and breaking up the joints so that it doesn't feel like everything moves as a unit. That's why it also feels stiff because everything moves together. And the same here. Once it's past a certain point, it's going to affect the second joint. So the first one can stay a little bit more centered still. And even here, you can still have this starting to move a little bit to the right, but not enough. And this one moves a lot more. And so what's going to give you is a little bit more of this type of shape rather than a straight line. And then what I want to check is, so what's happening right now is that all your swings are not the same amount of frames. So this one, if I started here, it goes kind of up to, let's say, 335. So that's around 5 frames. But then this one goes to 39. And then this one, 43. So all of them are not the same amount. Because in this case, this is one where we actually do want to follow the laws of physics. Because if not, it doesn't feel like a pendulum. When a pendulum swings, each swing, no matter how small it is, has to last the exact amount of frames. It doesn't matter how small it is. Like if it swings this much or this much, if this lasted 10 frames, this tiny one will also have to last 10 frames. Why? Physics. Math. Basically. I can't remember enough from when I studied physics, so just believe me when I say physics. What I would do is as this starts moving back, I would keep the other one moving a little bit more forward. Because right now, if we see the spacing of the ball, it kind of feels like it stops there and then it starts going back. So I should have done it with another color. Why do I always realize this after I've done it? So if we see the spacing here, I would personally maybe have the ball slightly more screen right here so that that bigger spacing at the beginning is what propels it forward. And then basically what you want to get in each swing in terms of spacing, because that drawing I made is a mess, is a nice ease out and a nice ease in, where the pendulum slowly stops and then slowly moves, then comes really fast in the middle, and then slowly comes to a stop, and then slowly. And so the fastest part and the bigger spacing will be in the middle of the swing. All of the extremes will have an easing. Is in, is out, whichever um, direction you're going. So right now what's happening is suddenly these 2 frames, let me just get closer here. See how it was coming with a certain momentum and it stopped really, really quickly and then it starts going the other way. So what we want here is probably in this frame, this needs to be a little bit more forward. And I would add a few more frames to this because I feel like you're using very, very few frames. I would maybe do each swing 8 frames is like a nice number usually. And then on this frame, it starts slowing down. And then slowing down. Potentially you could have one more, but this might be overkill. And then on the next frame, it starts going to the other side. My proportions are so off. Take into account that I'm not really counting how many frames I'm doing this. I'm just showing it for the spacing. So that's kind of the feeling that you want to get. So that it feels like it comes to not to a full stop, but like it slows down quite a lot and then slows out into the next one. And how is this going to affect the rest of the pendulum? So as this is coming, and again, what I'm saying for this, I want you to apply to all the other pendulum swings. I'm only going to review one. I want you to apply what you learn on this one into the other one. I'm all about not super hand holding people. Like this is, I'll give feedback, but I also want people to actually learn from it and apply the notes themselves. Why? Because it's my style. I come from a family of teachers and this method works. So, yeah. So how will this affect each of the other joints? So basically, the same thing will happen to each joint. So each of these joints will have the same spacing. the difference, this is like a really crappy drawing of spacing. The difference is when that will happen. So what's going to happen is that as this is coming to a stop here with my drawings that I drew in red, this is going to start moving to the other side. So what you're going to get are S shapes and C and reverse Cs all around. Why? Because in this part, let's do it when we've done another swing. You kind of have an S shape, a start of an S shape here. It's not too much, but it's starting to get there. Once you apply this idea of spacing a little bit better and you add a few more frames, it's going to read better, because this joint, the first one, oh my god, why do people think we want to become famous? I mean, yeah, of course, but we don't need to buy followers. If anyone here is a bot, you're gonna be banned. So don't be. That's me being super smart about bots. This first joint is going to reach its extreme first. And so, I don't know, because you buy fake followers who don't see your stuff. I guess for numbers, it helps to have more followers. Like you can promote yourself as, oh, look at me, I have so many followers. Yeah, but they're all fake. What's the point? It's pointless. I'd rather have 5 followers that actually watch what I do than 1,000 that don't care. Because I'm not doing it for 1,000 people that don't care. So this joint is going to start moving to the other side sooner than the other one. And so kind of this idea that you're getting where this starts moving, but the other ones are still moving the opposite way. Yay! That's amazing. That's super cool. As this joint starts moving the other way, this one is still catching up to its own extreme. And this one, it's even further behind. So this one is actually going to be way, way, way further behind. And then as this keeps moving, this one is going to start moving the other side, because basically the first joint is going to push all like the second one, and the second one the third one, but there's going to be a delay on each, a kind of an offset. And so the second one is going to start going the other way, but the third one is still trying to get to its apex, to its to its extreme, not the apex, sorry, to its extreme. So this one here might actually still be trying to get there. And this is, again, just me telling you how it looks, not where it will look, because, again, depending on how many frames you end up adding. But these are kind of like the shapes that you want to get. Where this, if I had drawn it a little bit better. Where are all my shapes? This starts going. This is basically how each joint will move. And then the first one will start moving this way, but these ones are still going that way. So does that make sense in terms of how the pendulum works? I think if you focus on the spacing of each, it's going to make a lot more sense and it's going to work really, really well. I would also add more frames. If you want to, again, for me, 8 is a nice number, but if not, if you want to do it maybe 6 frames, make sure every single swing is 6 frames. Some people, what they do is, in terms of how they animate this, is by posing it. So you pose the extremes, kind of, this extreme, and they pose a breakdown like this, and then the other extreme, or sometimes people, they offset each controller for each joint. Each controller, they offset it 1 frame, 2 frames more, and so you get the free overlap. Personally, I think the offset method works. It's a it's a really, really easy method to use, but it's not the best. Why? Because you're not learning how to do overlap. You're just learning how to offset. So when you get to a character that you need to animate, and let's say the character is doing this, they're lifting up their arm, you only know how to do do overlap by offsetting. If you pose it, then you understand what leads the motion, what follows, and what follows next. So if you did this, like you say, you offset them, I would challenge you to do this by not offsetting, but actually posing them. It's way harder, but it's going to teach you a lot because overlap is one of the hardest concepts to learn because it's very easy to offset. Everyone does it. I did it. And then you get to a place where you actually need to put in overlap and you don't understand what it actually means. So I would try to pose it. It's way harder. Just track the spacing. Spacing is going to be your best friend on this. Track it. Again, track it either with motion trails if you use them on Maya or Animbot, or by just drawing on the screen. Like the easiest way to track something is just dots. Dots in the middle, and then you check how this is moving, if it's moving in arcs, and if the spacing is good. So in terms of the pendulum, that's basically what I would focus on. If you want to just do an assignment where it's just a pendulum moving instead of all of this, that's fine as well. You don't need to overly complicate that. Okay, and for the ball, let me turn this off. I think overall the body looks pretty good. I do have a few suggestions and notes, but overall it's pretty good. Yeah, that's great. Exactly. Yeah, the tail, offsetting the tail is a nightmare. No, no, no. I will teach you a better way to do the tail. And um in terms of that you cannot offset, you learned the hard way. That's fantastic. Cuz then learning how to offset is really easy. It's literally offsetting curves. So if you ever need it, I do it at work. Sometimes I need to offset things and I'm like, ugh, I don't have time for this. And I'll just offset them. But I do that personally when I'm splining. I never do it in blocking. Yeah, exactly. Exactly what Ranjit is saying. Basically, what I was just mentioning right now. You learn how to do it and then learn the tips and tricks to make your workflow faster. And it also depends. If you block in splines, then you can get away with doing the offset of curves from the beginning. But if you block in splines, your blocking needs to be amazing. It needs to be almost polished, but without the polish. And that's something that a lot of people don't see, that when they do spline blocking, it looks like a lot of things are missing. And that's why. And this is when offsetting curves comes into play, because then you get the free arcs and all the extra overlap. But that's for later. Learning how to use the graph editor, though, is very useful. I'm not saying it's very important because there's plenty of animators who don't really look at the graph editor, whatever works for you. But it's very, very useful because once you understand how it works, there's so much that you can get for free if you just do it in the graph. Like sometimes I need free arcs and free, especially in the face, I use it a lot. I need free arcs and free, um, like circle motion. I literally just offset what I need in the way that I need it, and it does it free for me, and I don't have to worry about it. And there's also a lot of people who just block, or block with the graph editor. Those for me are geniuses, because if you can block a whole shot just looking at the graph editor, you understand all of the math behind animation and how it works. Jenny, my friend, I miss you. No, don't hear me talk about random things. Now I feel like I'm being watched. Just want to check something here. Why does this feel? No, this feels okay. So the reason why I'm looking first at the body before I look at the tail is if there's something to fix in the body, you need to do it way before you fix anything on the tail, because it will affect what the tail does. So the things that I would change, I personally prefer it when, instead of contact and then squash, I don't like to have this frame. I go directly into this one so that we actually oh no, Jenny, don't die. So that you go actually straight to that squash, and you're gonna feel that compression even more. And then on this frame, you can have kind of like an ease out, where you basically you use that frame. Here you would have this, and on this one is like um leaving that anticipation and going into the next motion. Yeah, exactly. There's some people who animate everything. If you see, for example, Michael Makarowicz, it's not that he animates everything with the graph editor, but the way he thinks of everything, you can see that he already has everything in mind, because he is focusing on the motion and the energy of the shot, which is something that you can totally do with the graph editor. I personally feel more comfortable looking at the like graphical way my shot is going and the appeal, but not so much the energy, because I feel out the energy as I block it out rather than think about it from the beginning. I bet she was giving you great notes, because Jenny is amazing and we love her. So be careful here with the squash and stretch. I feel you're stretching it too much for how much this character is jumping. I would reduce this quite a bit, because what's happening is that if I track this edge, see how it's like, this is how high the ball is going, but this is the highest point of the top of the ball. So I would reduce that stretch quite a bit. As it's coming down, I like it, but here it feels too much. What? There... Wait. No, yeah. And the same thing here. I would go straight into the squash and um, do this. Here, be careful, because your stretch is vertical rather than like you have it here. Basically, the stretch needs to follow the path that it was coming from. So this should be more like this, kind of like what you have here. So you know how to do it, just do it in that frame. And the same thing here. This needs to be with an angle. And also, I wouldn't do it here. So why did I draw it? I would go into the squash. So basically, what I'm saying for the first bounces, apply them to all of them, because I see the exact same problems in all of them. Here, where is it? Here. two things are happening. If we track the spacing, suddenly the ball pops down, moves for 2 frames with the exact same even spacing, and then moves back up with even spacing again. Like even the spacing is the same. So what I would do is I would add 1 more frame to the ball squashing and just make sure that basically always use ease ins and outs of for everything that you do. The same as it's coming up. Like a nice ease out and ease in. For such a big jump, because the ball is going to jump quite a bit here, I would actually maybe like in this frame, it will be a little bit less down just because again, we need to ease out of there. On this frame, it can be slightly higher than there. And then I would hold this for at least 2 more frames so that we actually feel the anticipation and we feel that the character is preparing to jump. And even if you want to, when you polish, you can add like a little bit of kind of side to side, like the character is like getting ready as it's coming down. And then I would maybe push this slightly higher. Yeah, it's really cool. And same thing here with this. So yeah, basically what I'm telling you for this first big jump, apply the notes to the second one. Because if I go through all of the frames, we're gonna be here for 3 hours. And you need to also learn how to take the notes from one place and put them into another. So for the tail, the easiest way to do this is to draw it over. And that's why we were talking so much about grease pencil. So let's say this is how the tail was coming from. Each time we draw the tail, what I like to do is just keep my ghosting on and try to draw the tail pointing to where it was coming from. That's like the easiest way. Then you look at the tip of the tail spacing and all of that. But for example, here, it will actually be a little bit further down. As it's coming down, the tail should be pointing to this. So what you can do is draw it kind of like this, and I should have chosen a better color, green. As it releases, it will release again. I'm just following what I drew before. Here, see how you're going in? No need. The tail was coming like this. Here at the most, it will go ever so slightly higher because the ball is going higher. So if we think about the drag, this is going to go up and this is going to follow what it was doing. And as it's coming down, this will kind of still want to go higher. And then as it drops, the tail drops with it. Same here. We follow the line. And so when I play this, it's going to look super cool. You might have too many frames on this jump. Let me fill it out. Nah, looks cool. So when I turn this off, I don't know if you can see it because it's really fast, but see how it almost also feels like a whip, how the tail goes from one shape to the other. It's always the tip looking at where it was coming from. And following always arcs. Like when it falls, this shape is too complicated. So if you just make it follow the arc that it was coming with, it's going to make it much easier. So apply this idea that I drew here to all of the rest. But let's talk about the anticipation, which is the place where it changes a bit how the tail works. So when we do this anticipation here, where it's going to hold for a little bit, what we want to do is basically use the tail kind of like a spring. So when you have a spring, if you push it and push it down, then it's going to have a lot more energy. Sorry if there's a lot of noise. There's very loud motorbikes close by. Um, as when you release the spring, it's going to be much with a lot of energy, much more than what you have right now. So what you can do is kind of get to this type of shape with the tail. This is even too much, like this. This is basically make what you're doing is kind of compressing the whole character onto itself. Right now you compressed it this way, but the tail is too far away. You can even compress it even more if you bring the tail closer to the body. And then when it releases, if I can get this back, you have to follow the same idea where the tail needs to follow where it was coming from. What I would do is, since I said that I would have this for a few more frames, and then on this first frame you can have the the body start to come up a little bit if you want. You don't necessarily need to, but if you want to, you can have it not this much. Maybe this is too much stretch. You can have it kind of starting, and as it's starting, the tail starts to unfold, and that's kind of what's going to give it the kind of say the push to go up. And then as it's coming up, that tail is going to follow where it was coming from. So if we see this without this, it will look like this. So that's what I would recommend doing for the jump and for all of this. Same when the tail, when the character is turning, think about it the same way. Where was the tail? Let's say this is your shape on where the tail is. As it's rotating, I would personally keep this here, and as it rotates, you kind of make the tail point to where it was coming from. Same here, maybe the tail is pointing a little bit more down. I'm sorry, I suck at drawing in perspective, so let's pretend that this is something. Something like that. Yes, okay, good. Yes, that's the company. They are the same people who created Keyframe MP and Keyframe Pro, which are a really good set of players. Yes, they are a really good set of players that I personally really love. I have the Pro version because again, you buy it once, you never have to buy it again, and it's super useful. You can draw over it, you can cut clips and put them together. They're really, really useful. No, it's okay. So no, because I was basically done with this exercise, I would say apply all the notes and use them for this, for the rest of the shot. Did everything make sense for this, or do you have any questions on this exercise? Because if you don't, I will move on to one of the walks. Or if you think this is too much and you won't be able to apply everything for next week, we can leave it here and we can look at the walk next week if that's what you prefer. I don't know how to draw either. I will see if there is time to. Okay, if there's time for me to give reviews at the end of the stream, I will let you know where to post them. Most probably here, maybe on Discord. I will let you know. Depends on what time it is because I don't want to finish way too late. Okay, so for the walk, I'm going to give you a few basic notes, but let's look at this one. Ah, missed my cue. Okay. Okay. Okay, so there's a few really nice things that are going on here. So for example, you get the straight line on contact. This great. And I see that it's happening for all the steps, which is really, really good. I see that you also have your contrapost. I think that you can push it a little bit more. Right now, thank you also for putting all the views in one single video. It makes my life so much easier. So right now what I'm missing from this is more side to side on the hips. Right now what's happening is that all of her, basically she's only balancing, let's put it here, which is the actual passing. I can't draw a straight line. This is kind of her balance point. And right now, a lot of her weight is on this side. She's going to fall. Why? Because she's only balancing on this one foot. So the way that we avoid this and she doesn't fall is to have a little bit more side to side on those hips. More translation X, usually it's X depending on the rig. Basically, every time that you have one foot in the air, the body is going to shift its weight to the leg that is touching the ground. And the same here. Here, I love that you have this contrapposto. I think you can potentially even push it ever so slightly more with the torso. I think you're. I can't tell. No, I think you have. Let me play it. I think you can push your rotation Y on the hips a little bit more. I'm not feeling it very much. So I think that you can push how much the body, the hips are rotating side to side. And the same with the chest. The chest is, if the hips are going one way, the chest is going the other way. So here, where are my drawings? If the hips are going this way, the chest will go that way. Be careful. Again, put grounds. Grounds are your friend. We need to see where this foot is touching. And here, especially when I see it from the front, it feels like it's floating. So you need to be careful because your foot is suddenly floating away. And it's not always in the same ground level. I think your is your TY on the hips. No. I don't know. At some points it feels a little bit too sharp. Yeah, it does. See how it feels if I look at the spacing, I don't know if we're gonna be able to see it. It feels like she stays, she suddenly drops in this frame. See how she was coming up, she's barely moving even in these frames, and suddenly she goes down. She needs to ease out. So potentially in this frame, it starts coming down a little bit. And the same here, it stops completely. See how it was coming with this speed and then it stopped. It needs to, again, ease in and out. So soften those hips, TY. No. I wouldn't move the knees outwards so much just because it starts to feel less feminine, especially when wearing heels. What I would do is two things. First, choose a side. Right now, both legs are pointing forward. Um, Either point them slightly outwards or point them slightly in. Don't point them exactly to the front because it's not as appealing. But then as the foot is coming, oh no, what happened? Am I still here? Okay. Am I still on the stream or did my Wi-Fi just cut everything and there's nothing going on? Because my Wi-Fi has been working crappy. Great, thank you. So as the foot is coming up, do it with a bit of an angle. So first I would bring the feet closer together so that her balance is even more centered, more awesome, thank you. More close together. That's going to also make it even more feminine. You can even have them almost one in front of the other like this instead of separate, a little bit kind of overlapping each other. So when the foot lifts up, the basically what usually happens is the small toe hits first, and then as it peels off, the big toe is what peels off last. So this will be with kind of, sorry, this angle to the foot, which is going to help with the knee coming in. And as it's coming here, it will continue with some sort of angle instead of coming up and down with the same angle. And then as it lands, you can slightly, because she's wearing heels, ever so slightly rotate this so that it feels like there's that angle where the little toe is the one that's planting first. And the same goes for all the other steps. And for the arms, apply what I've just told you about the pendulum and how it works. Basically, the arms are pendulums. So apply the same spacing to the arms. I want to see if you can kind of put the knowledge from that into the arms. And I think that's going to be a good thing to double check. I think I'm going to leave it there in terms of the feedback on this. Do you have any questions on the walk? Okay, cool. So for these poses, I'm gonna go over them a little bit quickly because I want to also give feedback to the rest. I think this is cool. I would play a little bit more with the line of action because right now your line of action is a little bit straight. You can push this a lot more. Let's say you can have the body bend back a little bit more. And this can go kind of like that. This is, again, me drawing really, really crappily. But this is to show you how you can play with the line of action a little bit more. This one is working much, much better. I like how you're flowing from one arm to the other. I would slightly rotate the knee a little bit more, pointing the other way. Just because the foot is pointing that way. And maybe potentially ever so slightly bring this elbow kind of higher there. Nice. I would try to keep this even straighter. And again, you can play with how it flows from one leg to the other a little bit more. And then for this arm, I'm not a big fan of this negative space. It feels a little bit low. So what I would do is lower this shoulder and bring the arm out a little bit more so that we read this better, and so that either the hand is out of that line of the torso, or it's in the torso. I would keep it in and have this little bit more with this angle, just because right now it breaks a little bit too much, which is not a bad thing, but considering how graceful your pose is, I think it can benefit from that. And you can angle the head also a little bit more so that you basically follow that line of action even more. Nice. I wonder. I feel like you're rotating the chest a little bit too much here. I feel that this line is a little bit too harsh. So I would maybe tone down there, and if you want to rotate forward, just rotate it from the ones below. This is maybe a place where you can play with the tension of the hand and separate those fingers a little bit more. And I would try to avoid having the fist pointing towards camera like this. 3/4 is usually more appealing, so I would rotate this a little bit more. And you can close one eye a little bit and the other one bigger, so that there's kind of a directionality to that face, so that it feels like it's looking that way. Cool. So I feel like you can push how this one is coming down. You can have this foot this way and maybe him being lower and arching this way. Just again, to play with the line of action, because right now the line of action feels very horizontal. So you can potentially do something like this. And then the other one, maybe you can push him also a little bit more. And straighten that arm again to follow the line of the body. And even this one, I would straighten it a little bit more. And I would rotate this foot a little bit more towards camera so it reads a little bit better. And try to, when you get to this, try to avoid such a complex space between the negative space between the body parts. It feels a little bit too complex. That's why when I drew it here, I thought maybe that arm can be just straight back, and maybe the hand is hidden by the leg, or potentially it's just following the leg, but it's a little bit more straighter rather than this, so that it doesn't um, get too complicated. Okay. Yeah, I went fast with this, but because I feel you already have a lot of notes to apply, so I would rather you focus on everything else. Did the notes on this make sense? Or do you have any questions? Thanks. No, it's okay. After 7 p.m., I try not to drink too much water because I like sleeping without having to go to the toilet so much. So, yeah. So cool. Awesome. I'm sorry if I pronounce it wrong again. Is it Ayub or Ayub? I think it was Ayub. Are you here to double check if I should go through your shot first or Maya's, depending on whether you're here or not? Yes, cool, awesome. So, oops, whoa, 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 no, 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 stop assuming. Okay, there we go. So I was checking this earlier, and I also talked about this with Madison because she's really good at acting, and she had some really good ideas as well for this. So we were thinking that it would be good for you to start the shot around frame 41. The reason for this is, for everyone who hasn't seen the shot, let me just play it through so that you can see it completely. This is basically a pantomime shot, which is a great exercise to show a change of emotion. It's usually a good thing to see it in the body rather than just in the face. So I think this is going to work really nicely. The reason why we were saying to start it at frame 41 is because right now it kind of feels like someone said action and she started acting. Because if she's so excited about this food, why isn't she excited from the start? She needs to be excited from the start, or like this plate isn't here and someone brings it to her and puts it in the table, but I think that's way too much work. So I think if you already started, like Madison suggested, on frame 41, you first are almost getting rid of 2 seconds, which is amazing, and it will make your life easier. And it's already a way more appealing pose. It's way more appealing to start with this than with this, if we look at it in terms of a pose. This is way more appealing. You can push this pose, we'll talk about that later, but first I want to go over the acting changes that I would suggest. Then, what I would also change is, in terms of general big note, is from 261 to the end. So all of this, I would personally change it completely. That's why whenever we want to do an animation, it's very useful, and this goes for anyone here, for all your animation careers from now till forever. If you ask us for feedback, or anyone, or if you're at a job, always show your reference first. If you can't show reference because your workplace is super fast paced, at least shoot it for yourself. And if you don't have time, then it might end up going really badly for you. I know it sucks because in TV sometimes you don't have time for reference. Then you can just check the storyboards or whatever previous did and then use that as a base. But the reason why I'm saying this is, right now the story kind of doesn't make sense. And the reason why I'm saying this is, if we look at it from here, she's like, "Oh, this is so good. I love this. Food, yeah." And she's like, "Oh my god." oh, I want to reach it. Oh, I reached it. And then she gets angry because she didn't reach it. Just stand up and go to the other chair. Like, that's the thing. There's no reason for her to act this way. Because the mother could have just pushed the plate. Like, there's no real challenge for her to be this upset at not being able to reach it. She goes from 0 to 100 in 0 time, and she could have literally gone out of the chair, gone to the other chair which is way closer, and just grabbed it from there. She's being very stubborn, and it's also a very cliche type of reaction. So how do we make it not cliche? Please do not use that word here. I do not agree with using that word. Um, I should ban words. So the possible suggestion that I have, again, you can choose your own. I would personally, if you're going to work on this next week, I would work from frames 41 to, again, 261 or so, and you can work on this range of frames. From the rest, I would reshoot reference because next week you have Madison, and show her the reference. Do not block it. Do not spline it. Just show the reference for that end part. So my suggestion would be, since she's trying to reach it and she touches the plate and everything because the plate even moves, maybe what could happen is that she grabs one of the either blueberries or the raspberries, whichever you want. She grabs it, she eats it, and maybe she can lean back and be like, I enjoy this. This is so good. It's okay, no problem. We all make mistakes. It's not and it's not a very appropriate word, unfortunately. It has a very negative connotation in terms of how it's been used. So no problem. We just don't use it. Good thing is you didn't mean to use it in a bad way. So it can be that she puts it in her mouth and she's like, oh, this is so good, and she leans back, or she grabs a handful, like whatever she can grab, puts it in her mouth like this, and just eats it in kind of this very stretched out position. I'm just giving you ideas. It doesn't mean these are the best ideas. These are just some ideas. So whatever you can come up with, as long as it's not her just being like, oh, I can't reach it. Oh well, I'm angry. No, there has to be more thought process behind this. And I think if you just do a cute shot, which is a kid loving food, it's going to be way more successful and more entertaining to watch as well. Always try to think about what is the character thinking about in this moment? What is the thought process behind this? And right now, she just wants to eat these pancakes. And so everything in her willpower is going to be to start eating this. So I feel like if she manages to actually eat it, that would be super, super cool. So again, whatever ending you want to give this, do it, but I would avoid this acting choice. Also, I love that you have all the props set up. This is really, really cool. And see, even like, look at how many even fall. Like, maybe one of them falls instead of her grabbing it from the plate. One of them falls here and she grabs it and eats it. That could be a thing. Like, the only reason why I feel she would be this angry is if, let's say, don't do this because this is way too complicated for what this shot needs. But let's think of, why would she be angry? Like, she would be angry if like really angry like this and upset if the pancakes were gone. Because her goal in this shot, we always need to think about what's the goal of the shot, what's the goal of the character. Her goal is to eat the pancakes because she loves food. She's like super enjoying the other thing. Um, and suddenly pancakes arrive, and she's like, "Oh my god, I need this." So her, her only reasoning for her to feel like this is that the pancakes are gone. So one way the pancakes could be gone is her dog jumped on the table and ate all the pancakes. And then she gets angry because now the pancakes are gone. And then she gets angry because she can't eat them. Right now she can eat them. She's just being very stubborn because she's not like, "Oh no, I'm too lazy to actually get up." And no. Let's try to think of something beyond just going from happy to angry. Let's you can when you're doing pantomime, you don't necessarily need to go from one extreme to the other. You can go from like a blend of emotions, and you can even go from one that is relatively similar to another but with a higher intensity, and that's also really nice. And it's also nice to explore other emotions, because a lot of people, they tend to do from happy to sad, from angry to happy, from all of those that are very basic. But if you go from, let's say, she's like happy enjoying to like, there she would be, I don't know, we could change this to be even more ecstatic. That's another emotion. And then from here to, what's the word when you're kind of fulfilled because she was able to eat it, and she's kind of more relaxed because she's like, "Oh, I'm eating this, and this is like," she's not just happy. she she's kind of, again, kind of more relaxed, like, "Ah, yes, sugar, this is what I needed." So I hope all of that made sense. I know it's a big change for the end, but I think it's going to help you a lot on how this shot reads, especially because this is such a cute character. Yeah, satisfied. Thank you. Thank you, people, for helping me with my English. Satisfied. I should have remembered it, having listened to Hamilton so many times. Um, I hope uh that made sense and you're okay with it. This character is so 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 cute that it kind of gives itself for having a really cute shot. So in terms of the shot itself, I don't know, because here you said it's spline. I'm not sure if you did a blocking pass or if your blocking is in spline. Because depending if your blocking is in spline, the notes are going to be very different. But a few things to consider. Let's go part by part. So here, if you're going to start in this position, I would basically have kind of a similar position to this, but starting it a little bit higher, just so that we read it, because in this one we read it because we can see her going into the bowl. But in this new version, we're removing some frames, so just have it a little bit higher so that we have basically we need at least 4 frames to read what's happening in the shot. Doesn't mean that it's 4 frames where she's static, but she's living into that, in that pose where she's going down into the bowl. I would also maybe even push this body shape a little bit more so that's a little bit more rounded. I've never used this character, so I don't know how much this is doable. For the hands, what I like to do is think a little bit more of asymmetrical poses. I'm not going to draw them because I suck at drawing hands, but I can send you, if this ever loads, I think I have a few links on hand posing that I can share. I did a website with all the resources, but sometimes it takes a while to load because the server is from my country. So basically, what I like to think of for hands is asymmetry. So for example, right now, it kind of feels like all these 3 fingers are kind of curved exactly the same amount, and they are all separated by the same space. So what I like to do is think of Disney, what they're called Disney hands, which is basically grouping fingers. So either you group 1 2 1, or you can group 3 and 1, 3 and 1, or 2 and 2. You can also do that. Live long and prosper. I think I have. Where are the hands? I should have put something for hands. No, ooh, I haven't done the hands yet. Okay, I'll find all the links I have on hands and send them, because I'm pretty sure in all of those links there's like the Fluby Newbie hands pose that is really, really useful. So I'm gonna leave this here for everyone. It's very useful to see how other people pose hands. These are very, very interesting. Let's see if there's one closer to this character. Um, I think maybe the first one. But like, for example, this one's. See how there's grouping happening here. 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 3. This is also 1, kind of 2, 3, because there's a spacing there. It makes it way more visually appealing. And not all the fingers are curled exactly the same way. Maybe if she is kind of dainty, she could have maybe the index a little bit higher, and then the middle and the next one, the ring finger, a little bit lower, and then the pinky slightly higher. Yeah, I know, right? I can't draw hands, but posing them is super fun because there's so much expression that you can get from hands. And this is something that if you follow the Pratt Bros stream, they always emphasize on hands. If you send Bo a blocking and the hands are not posed, that's one of the main notes. It'll be like, pose the hands. Because hand posing is super important. It's not the same if I'm knocking the door like this as if I'm knocking the door like this. This tells a story, I'm angry. This just tells I'm just knocking the door. So, for example, two fist examples of how much it changes from going from this to this already, two completely different things. Yes, please, for sure. Ooh, cool. Awesome. I'm going to open this for myself later for my own personal um everything. My own personal learning. I think I've already gone through this, but it's always good to have this. I swear I will update my website with resources with everything one day, maybe this weekend. Um then since the first frame is really important, usually in pantomime, even though yes, the face is always important. Cool. I like that icon. The face is always important, but in pantomime we try to think more about the body. But you can already pose this to be way more interesting. Look at your face. It's a lot more interesting. She uh can have her mouth a little bit like more open, more asymmetrical. Try to think about opening up the face to the side that she's looking. So for example, right now the eyes are the same size on like both sides. So the way that we open up the face is by basically you can open this side a little bit more and have uh this. You can even have her kind of. I suck at drawing eyebrows because this sounds a little bit too creepy. Maybe this is higher. I can pose eyebrows, but I can't draw them, and they're just lines, which is super annoying. But yeah, you could have them kind of like it's not that she's worried, but she's happy. And then look at your eyes. What's happening is your cheeks, because you're smiling, your cheeks are pushing into your lower lids. So instead of having this shape, you have kind of this shape. This is an exaggeration, and the cheeks go up. But basically, she's happy like that. What I would do maybe is play it with the speed of the shot a little bit differently. Um, just because it feels like right now the way she grabs this is a little bit too quick, and then it feels very even how she puts it in her mouth. So I would maybe slow down also because you need like a few more frames here where she will start a little bit higher and then come down. But I would also maybe not have this be so fast. This motion, I would slow it down a little bit, add a few frames. You can basically remove, how many frames does this take? So this whole motion is like half a second. Maybe you can remove 3 frames from here and put them in here. And you can even play a little bit more with the arcs and everything. So for example, here as she grabs this, I kind of like how you're having it in your reference. I know that the character proportions are very different, but I kind of like what's happening with everything with the hand pose, that it's changing so she's not always with the exact same hand pose. But also what I like is because right now if I track this almost to there, it feels very even. See how the spacing is exactly the same. It's moving exactly the same rate each frame. And it's also very, very vertical. So maybe what she could do, because she's enjoying this, where is this? She could, to start with, get into this rotation of the head a little bit sooner. So by here, she would already be with the head rotated. And maybe here she's still looking at the, what is it, like a Cheeto? And like here, you still have your mouth a little bit more closed. So I would close the mouth. And the reason for this is you can then open the mouth in less frames. Right now it's happening everything so even that it feels like everything is at the same rate. It feels very mechanical. So if she holds the mouth closed for a little bit longer, that could help, or open the mouth sooner. But I think it will be overkill to have the mouth open so long, um, without her putting the Cheeto in her mouth. And then just make sure that that spacing is a little bit, maybe it could be kind of an ease out, and then it speeds up, and when it gets to her mouth it kind of slows down so that she's not, what's the word, she's not moving it evenly until it gets to her mouth. She's kind of and then it slows down before it gets to her mouth, and then she bites on it. And you could even have her bite on it and have a part stick out, and then when she takes her mouth off, sorry, her hand off, she can do, and the whole Cheeto goes into her mouth. So that could be something that you can do, because right now it just feels like it just went down. Like the tongue is not doing anything and it just went completely down, and she didn't even push it. It just went into her mouth without anything moving it that way. But if she does, then already by seeing the cheeks go in and maybe even the body a little bit moving, you can feel that it was because of suction and not because it just went up. And you can also have the arc of the hand and everything go up and down rather than just diagonal. And then all around, think about the hand poses. Go through that library that I sent, and there's a lot more. If you just write on Google, basically animation hand poses, you're gonna find so many posts. Just try to go through your whole shot and do a pass on the hands. Even if you're looking at your hands here in real life, we don't do Disney hands. It's very common for us to do this. But if I'm doing, for example, an open hand like you have here, maybe I will have like this. Or I will have it like, I can't do it with my, like this, where it's very hard for me to look at me mirroring, where this is more separated than the others. I wouldn't do the same space between each. And maybe also she can have, again, like if we look at it from the side, some of the fingers are straight, some of them are slightly bent, something so that it doesn't feel like she's just like this. It could be she's kind of relaxed, kind of excited. So there's a little bit more asymmetry happening in the hand. And something that I like that's happening in your reference, where you can actually feel that you're eating, is as soon as you bite, your face kind of arcs down and up. And right now you're having the opposite in your reference. She's moving this way. I would actually have her arc down, because then you can feel that she's starting to kind of bite and crunch and everything. And you can also open, when she opens her mouth, you can open this a lot more. Because right now, I don't know the limitations of this rig, so I'm not sure if this rig can do it. Some rigs are very limited, but sometimes there are ways in which you can push the rig regardless of its limitations. But basically, I would like to see a bigger, way bigger mouth. I suck at drawing. I wish I could remember a shot where a character is eating so that there's an appealing mouth to show. I should have my own library of, can't remember, probably Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs has really, really appealing mouth shapes. So I would check that movie for really good mouth shapes. I like that you're playing with the arcs of the mouth and how it's moving around. That's really, really cool. I would try to maybe push it even more. Kind of like what you have in your reference, which is really, really nice, is that if you see how this is, it's kind of like the mouth is starting to lead the motion a little bit more, and you're pushing this way more. So this could be around here. and that will give you even bigger line of action with the face. Again, not sure how much this rig can do, but look at this line of action. Like, people forget that our faces actually can move quite a bit, and they leave everything very static. Ooh, did he put it in his Vimeo? Maybe we can get a good shot from there. I wrote whatever, Ferreira. But I can't scrub through there. I'm gonna ask him to put it up here, and then we can see it. Why doesn't he put it up? Freaking. Ooh, look at that mouth shape. That's so cool. I wish I could scrub through. But yeah. The play is right where, like, see how asymmetrical this shape is. So she could have something like that where basically in where when she opens, you try to also think about where the mouth is opening to. And so if she's opening up that way, this side can be higher. And you can do something kind of like this. This is not, again, the best thing. I should be able to draw a mouth because it's just lines, but my brain can't compute. But yeah, analyze movies. This is the best thing. And if you can find them on Vimeo and scrub through, fantastic. For this, I kind of like how you are kind of crunching your eyebrows a little bit more, because then it feels like she's like super enjoying this. I like what you're having with your eyebrows here, but the reason why I'm saying is because then you can have this change here where she goes from enjoying it in one way to super ecstatic about the pancakes. And then about everything that you do, think about arcs. Right now, even if in your reference your hand moves diagonally, you need to think about arcs, even if it's not happening in real life. So this hand can come here and can basically arc this wrist this way. I know, right? My dream is to go to DreamWorks to get merch from the movie that I worked on. So we didn't get any merch because we were not at DreamWorks. We just worked for them. So my goal is to go there and be like, where is my Spirit um, art book? Because I would really like an art book. The art of that movie is amazing. Especially seeing it all happening was really, really nice. Okay. So for the rest of this, yeah, I know. For the rest of this, I I'm guessing again, this is your spline version. This is not your blocking. If this is your blocking, then fine. But if this is your spline version, for all the rest, I would just go into polish and basically, uh, what's the word? Track everything. Track the nose, track the wrist, track the chest, track the ears, whatever it is that you see, track it so that you can see already. Is it moving in arcs? What's the spacing like? Does my spacing work with my timing? Is the motion even? Is it does it have an interesting spacing where does it go, does it ease out when it needs to, is it changing direction in a good way? All of that you can um, do it in the next pass, so that, for example, you can track the nose here. Let me go back to here and just double check. For example, here it kind of feels like the nose gets stuck in place in this area. So you can potentially make that arc a little bit bigger, for example. That's places in which you can fix it. But let's go back to the rest so that I can give you basically uh, a full idea on everything. So let's go up to this frame. So there's a few ways in which you can play with this. Right now, for me, what's happening is that everything kind of falls in the same pace. Everything is kind of happening in the same, with the same rhythm. That's the word I was looking for. So she's moving like this, and then she goes, and then she goes, and everything seems to follow the same beat. So what I would, oh, thank you. I'm just hoping it helps and what I'm saying makes sense. That's all I'm hoping for. If it helps you, then great. So basically, there's a few ways in which you can play this. I'm not gonna tell you which way to do it. I'm just gonna suggest, and then you choose what you prefer. Aw, thank you. You guys are amazing. The reason for this is because animation is not a hard and straight science. It's whatever you want to make it out to be, and this is your shot. So, one thing that I would try, for example, is she was coming with this, she stops, and I would actually have her, like, I like this that she kind of looks at it kind of slowly. I like that. But then I would hold this. Like, she stops, like she was doing like this, and then she stops, and you can even see a little bit of overshoot because she was looking, and when she actually saw it, she stopped flat. And when you stop flat, because you're very harsh on your motions and you're tensing up your muscles, when you tense up your muscles, they overshoot. Like, for example, I'm doing this right now. I can either stop soft and there's like a slight soft overshoot, or I can tense my muscles and see, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but my hand kind of overshoots and comes back very, very little. It's like doing a kind of vibration. And so I will hold this shot so that she can take in what she's seeing. Because right now, she saw it and she's already reacting. You're not giving her enough time to actually think. So I would hold this for a few frames, 3, 4 frames, and then again, these are just options, and then you choose where to put which. You can, one could be she holds, and then instead of holding here again, she can go from here to this. So she would hold, look at it, and then she'd be like, so she instead of holding, she would like basically go up as an anticipation, move the plate really fast, because then you're gonna get that nice rhythm change where she was very, very quiet, and then she moves very quickly and pushes that away, and then you go into what you have. That's one option. Another option is she looks at it, she doesn't, like, she holds for what you have, but then instead of just getting into this, she she could just actually go bigger with that and hold that in that bigger motion. So she could be like, so instead, because right now she's like very, very quiet, very, but she loves this. So even in her face and in her eyes, like her eyes can go bigger, and there can be white around the eyes, and her eyebrows even go bigger. Everything goes bigger. Even her mouth goes bigger. Again, find better reference for drawing mouths. I'm sorry. I I know how to pose them, but drawing lines is super hard. I don't know why I can't do that, but I can tell you what to do with it. Um, so what we were saying there, and then she goes like this, and she can be very quiet, like, oh my god, moving this around. So there you have two very different rhythms that you can choose and you can mix and match, but there has to be a difference in how she reacts to things. Not everything has to fall in the same pace because then it feels very even in spacing. I can't remember who it was that said it while I was studying at AM. I think it might have been Daniel actually that mentioned it from one of his mentors that sometimes when we animate, we kind of animate to our heartbeat, and so all the motions fall in the same of our like pace of our heartbeat, and that's why we get even timing, which is super interesting. I can't remember exactly which mentor said it. I think it probably was a Pixar mentor. I can't remember. I have that feeling that it was. So you need to, when you're doing your animation, you need to think, okay, am I changing the rhythm in the shot? Is it interesting? Is it like, maybe it was Drew? Honestly, I can't remember. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Could have been. Um, you you can basically think of the shot as a song. Think of it musically. Or if you don't know how to think of it musically, I don't even know how to play an instrument, but I can think of it more mathematically in terms of, okay, this was very slow. Let's try this fast. Let's try this slow. Or put some song as a background music and see if you can, if like, let's say there's a song that has a really nice rhythm that would work for your shot. You can put that as a background music when you're animating, and that's going to give you really good variations in your animation. I think Daniel in the last stream or it was last week, showed how, I think it was Daniel Klug for one of Raya's shots. He was doing a fight scene and he found a song and he animated to that song. The song has nothing to do with Raya, but he was like, oh my god, this could work. And the rhythm falls on that. And so instead of all the hits in the fight scene landing exactly on the same frames, they basically uh, have a more interesting pace to them. Oh, thank you. It's honestly not, but basically none of my art, like the ideas that I gave for this, yes, these are mine, but the knowledge that I'm sharing is not mine. I've learned it from a lot of other people. No knowledge that I'm giving is original. The ideas are just random things that I just thought about. You can come up with better ideas because I've just thought of this literally 2 seconds ago. So you can think of way better ideas for this. I'm just giving you examples on how you can push this. So for this section, I'm not going to give you more feedback because I want you to change it first and see what you do with it, because your spacing, your arcs, everything is going to change depending on which idea you go for. I also, tiny note that I really love about this shot. Oh, thank you so much. Uh, and this is something for everyone here, that this is something that he's doing really, really well, and a lot of animators don't do, is what we kind of call like adding more business to the shot. That's not the term, but let's pretend, because it's almost 9 p.m. and my brain starts decreasing its English levels. But basically, right now, uh, the ball moved, a Cheeto fell, she grabbed it and moved it aside. That is great. That is basically secondary action. Secondary action is not overlap. A lot of people think secondary action is overlap. Secondary action is this. When you are, the main action is her getting to the pancakes. The secondary action, which adds to the character and tells who like more about who this character is her moving the Cheeto, and it also adds um an obstacle, let's say, to her. She's not just, oh, I moved it, everything moved cleanly and perfectly, and I'm going and reaching to the Cheeto. No, no, no. There's business happening. There's something happening. This had fell. Sorry, this had fell before. So you even planned it way, way before, and you can tell she's kind of let's she. There's two things that you can tell from this. One, it could be she wants nothing in her way to the pancakes, not even that. That's how focused she is on that. Or you can also tell she's very also kind of not prim and proper, but organized because she's not messy. If she were messy, she would just leave it there. She would even push it aside and it would fall on the floor and she doesn't care. She didn't throw it away. Like she could have grabbed it and threw it away, but she didn't. She pushed it aside. So all of this tells a story and this is great. So I love seeing this kind of things. So for this, let's go up till 261. I think all of this, in terms of what's happening, is working nicely in terms of the main poses that you have. I would add, again, for this, I would add a little bit more of variation in her timing and spacing. So she can kind of hold this slightly more and she can, from frames, let's say 192 to 216, that's way too many frames. I would make that way faster. I would make her go into this way quicker because she wants to get there fast. So if this is your first pose, and she can actually, in this, I would actually have her touch the table completely rather than this. I would actually have her hand on the table. And let's say this is your last pose. I think I can move frames on Sing Sketch. I can't remember. But I would maybe even push. I kind of want to push her even further. So you would have to move the plate a little bit more. I know it doesn't fall on the thirds, but honestly, that's something that you can figure out later. It's just that I want her to be pushed a little bit more. You can even bring that shoulder higher. Just so that everything is way more extended, way more pushed forward. And right now, can I move? I feel like yes. Haha. I could, right? Oh yes, it moved. Cool. And here I had written bigger just because I think that on that way that she goes forward, she can have like a little bit of an arc up and down on her body so that instead of just going like this straight, there's a little bit of an arc. So it's not like, it's kind of like she would be either jumping and going in there or diving in, whichever you prefer. Let's see how much I can draw this without me knowing what I'm doing. Again, I suck at drawing. I don't plan my shots by drawing them because I suck. Even this is too slow. This could be even happening way sooner. Uh-oh. Okay, I'm trying to reassign all of this. Hang on. And then on the next frame, she could potentially already be there. This might be too fast, but it could work. Okay, let's see if it plays something. Yeah, this might be too fast, but kind of something like this where she pushes off and gets there way faster. Yeah, on Sing Sketch you can. So this is not, again, not the best drawing and the best idea of how to do it, and the spacing is not right. But basically what I want you to do, instead of taking from 191 to 216 on this, I want you to finish it by 204 maximum. Like her reaching this pose. And then I really like all of this that's happening with the hands. Do add that in. All of that movement and tension that you're having, I would already add that in. And in terms of her face, I think you need to do another pass on her whole facial expressions, because right now they're very tame, very not that expressive, let's say. Because right now here, this doesn't really tell me what she's thinking. I'm not sure what she is going through, her emotion. Everything falls very, very flat. So you need to think about what emotions she's going through. Even here, we already talked about how you can push this to be all everything in the mouth bigger. Even here, her smile could be bigger. She can even close her eyes a little bit more. Like she's like, yes, something like she's planning. All around here, she has her eye on this. So her eyes are smaller, and she has a kind of green, like, ha ha ha, yes, I'm gonna eat this. Can you, like, you already have it here, you can push that a lot sooner and push even this, because right now she's looking way too far up. She needs to be looking further down, so that's going to help you lower those eyelids, because right now she was looking higher up. All around here, look at your expression. You're really struggling, so she can have a super big smile and also be struggling. That's not a struggle. Then look at how pushed your face is. Here she can be clenching her teeth. And again, think about the asymmetry of the face. Think about the line of action. Like you can push the jaw. If there's a squash and stretch control here at the bottom, you can push that to kind of shape this lower part of the face a little bit more. And then again, if she is struggling, let's pretend I can draw a line. She can struggle opening up the face to that side because that's the way she's looking. That's why if I draw this mouth a little bit better, she can basically be greening and clenching her teeth this way so that there's an angle to this. And then this eyes could be super, super close. She can barely have them open. And this can come down a lot more, but this eye is slightly more open than the other. And that this eyebrow is slightly more high up than the other one. And then I really like everything that's happening here in terms of, if you look at your body, there's motion in your body as you're trying to struggle to get there, and also everything that's happening in the hands. And then as she wants to get to this, right now what's happening is she's coming up so much that it doesn't feel like she's really struggling. I would keep her um maybe it's not that I would keep her lower, it's more that I would keep this arm straighter so that we feel tension, because right now she feels like she doesn't have that much tension. If you want her to actually bend this arm, I feel like she would need to come even more forward, and then there would be a reason for her to bring that arm and bend it so much. I'm gonna do that because it was bothering me. But I love like the action that you have here with the plate and everything. That works really nice. But here, look at the nuance of the movement. That this is something that we take from the reference, and that's why I like always having a reference there when I'm either blocking, sometimes splining. When I'm polishing, I forget about it, but I like to have it when I show it the first time. Look at how the nuance of this works. So as you bring that hand down, your whole body is rotating, that shoulder is pushing. Right now, you're first putting the hand down, and you haven't used the angle of the head um, to show this kind of line of action where she's struggling. So she can bring her hand down, again, more straight. You can, if not, just push that shoulder and then rotate this head to give her that much of a push. And you can even stretch this hand probably a little bit more. Again, all of this is probably going to be more forward if you follow this anyway, but try to always keep that tension and line of action going throughout. For this, you can even push this facial expression a little bit more. Let me draw it somewhere else where it's more visible. Here. Like you can have more tension and asymmetry. Basically, what I want, because right now this looks very even, this arc and this arc. So you can push this higher and this one lower, and this can maybe even arc up. And then the ending, we already talked about that. So I think that's all I have for you now. I would, for next week, aside from reshooting reference, I would, and applying these notes, I would also start thinking about basically what I mentioned before, going through all the body parts, tracking all the spacing, tracking all the arcs, making sure all your facial expressions are very, very expressive all the time. Like you don't have a moment like this where we don't when she feels very neutral. And if you're not sure what facial expression to give her and you're like, I'm very struggling with this, go to movies. There's so many movies, especially Disney characters tend to have this facial proportions. Go to uh, any movie with characters around this age. You can even check, for example, what's her name? Riley from Inside Out could be a good one to check because there's a lot there, especially in the first few minutes of the movie where they tell her own story as she was growing up. See and practice all those facial expressions and how to achieve asymmetry in there. We can talk about that later on and go over a little bit more, but basically try to avoid neutral. Yeah, that one as well. Yeah, exactly. So, do you have any questions on anything about this? Or anything you want me to go over again? Awesome. No problem. Cool. So, next we have Maya, if you're still here. Maya. And I just want to double check because I sent you a message before just to. Okay, cool. Awesome. So, great. So, I did. Let me play this for everyone. But I did already write down a few notes that I want to talk about. And since you told me that Madison didn't focus so much on the body, I'm going to see if also I have any notes on the body. I haven't checked. Oh, thank you so much. I haven't checked yet the body because I was focusing on the lip sync, lip sync since you mentioned that on the message that I sent you. So let me play this for everyone.
Those kind are poison? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh.
Cool. So let's go into the notes that I wrote to myself so that I can remember what it was that I meant that I wanted to say. This is why it's good if when you guys send me the links beforehand, because by this time I'm usually, my brain is kind of mashed potatoes, and if I wrote notes to myself, I can get back on track and be like, oh yeah, this is what I wanted to say about this, and then it helps me a lot. So thank you so much for everyone sending your reviews um, in a timely manner. So I think that the lip sync is working way better than last time, because I remember seeing it when Madison was giving you feedback. Her feedback was amazing and you applied it really, really well. There's a few areas where we can still push things a little bit more. So, for example, um, I know that you mentioned that there were some face notes that you still needed to apply. I can't really remember what it was that she said, so I'm not gonna go over the face too much, except for the lip sync. What I meant, the face, basically the eyes, just because I might overlap with something that Madison has already said. But something that I've just noticed is that you can push this a little bit, just because this is kind of doing this. So you can push this, this a little bit, just a thing. So what are all these arrows that I've just marked in this part? Basically, if we, yeah, no, but I do mind, just because I don't want to contradict anything that she could have said, just because she was already coming up with an idea, like a specific idea, and maybe I come without knowing the intention that she was talking about, and so I might mention something on the face, but I would much rather you apply the notes first. So if we go, basically what I'm gonna do is frame through this first few frames. So this right now for me is feeling very pose to pose. It feels kind of like you went from pose A to pose B. How can we add variation to this and change it so that it's not A, E, so that it goes from 1 to 2? So one thing that I did was I literally very quickly shot reference of my face doing this, and I scrubbed through to see what is my face doing. My face in particular, what it did was something that I would start actually on this few frames is the sneer. In this few frames, you can start lowering it. So first, the sneer starts coming down a little bit. The other parts of the mouth are going to have tiny movement, but the main thing is the sneer is going to come down first. Then the mouth corners can come in and down and up. So if we see this type of arc, you can do. So first the sneer comes down, slight, like again, it's not 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like one starts and then the other motion starts and then the other motion starts. It's not one after the other. It's all kind of tying in together. As those mouth corners are coming down, these lips can be kind of ever so slightly coming together, not fully closed, but just a little bit. And then those mouth corners come up in a kind of arc motion, and the mouth opens. That's going to give you a little bit more nuance to the movement, and it's not just going to feel like it went from one pose to the other and like you just hit spline. Sometimes with mouth shapes and lip sync, you might need to go frame by frame. It sucks, but sometimes you need to do it. Sometimes you can play with it. Like one thing that I'm doing sometimes at work is for especially the eyebrows, but I know a lot of people do it for the mouth corners. For the mouth corners, a lot of people, what they do is they grab the TY and the TX and they offset them. And that gives you free arcs. I personally am not a fan of that method for the mouth, but just because I'm a very big control freak and I don't trust that all my mouth shapes are gonna look beautiful, and it annoys me. But if it works for you, that's wonderful. For the eyebrows, I definitely do it. I I go to the eyebrows and I offset the translation X by 2 frames, either forward or backwards, depending on whether you want an arc like this or an arc kind of coming like this. I think usually I put the TX 2 frames before, but honestly, it depends. For the eyebrows, I just want free arcs. I don't care because I'm not worried so much about the shapes. The shapes are gonna stay the same. It's just the arcs that are gonna change. For me, the mouth corners, if I offset them, it it sometimes destroys my mouth shapes. So whatever works for you. If it doesn't destroy and you want to offset you to get arcs, do it. If not, sometimes you need to go frame by frame. I have a coworker who's been at Sony. He's worked on Spirit. He's worked in like a lot of big movies. And I told him, "Oh my God, you have like beautiful things in the mouth where everything moves in really beautiful arcs. How do you do it?" And he's like, "Sometimes I go frame by frame." And I was like, "Oh, okay. So it's not that far from what I do. I just suck at it." Yay. Um, no, yeah, no problem. So basically, I'm not sure how you animated the eyebrows. I'm gonna explain it with the eyebrows, just because uh, it's the first one that I thought of. So I don't know if you animated the eyebrows with these 3 controllers or this one. Whichever you did, it's the same thing. So what I do is, let's say you animated all your eyebrows however you animated them. I personally, okay, yeah, I personally, when I animate the TX to TY, the up and down, and aside from the rotations, I also animate how they come in and out. Um, I know there are others, but I like they're not very active. So if anyone has any, feel free to share animation communities. So if you animated both the TY and the TX, then what you can do is grab in the graph editor, go to the all the curves for the translation in X, grab all of them and move them in the timeline 2 frames before or 2 frames after. The reason for this is because our eyebrows move in arcs. So, like, you can do it just for the tip of the eyebrows. You don't have to do it for everything. Sometimes I do it for everything just to get this one to have a little bit of motion. If you haven't animated the TX of the eyebrows coming in and out, um, I would animate it. Basically, what you need to think about for your whole shot is this: when the eyebrows come up, if they just come up, if they are surprised, the eyebrows can arc kind of like this or like this. It either way, they can come like this or they can come like that. But they need to arc. They don't just go up like this, the tips of the eyebrows. When they come, let's say she goes from this to sad, like your eyebrows need to move in arcs like the rest of the body. So for example, if I'm doing it this to camera, if I do this and I do this, let me think about it because I don't have very good mobility with my eyebrows. See how my eyebrows do this? They come that way. They arc and they overshoot a little bit. And you can play with how I can't do very good mobility with my eyebrows, but you can arc this a little bit. So I always use not just translation Y, but translation X. If you did not add any translation X, yes, you need to add it and then you can offset it. The way I animate it is basically every time I post it, I add both things. So for example, if this is here and my next post is her kind of smiling, I would bring her eyebrows closer together. And there I have my TX. And then if she comes like here, I would bring them out a little bit. It doesn't have to be a lot, but just a little bit to give you that. So first, I don't offset anything at the beginning. I just pose it so that when they are, basically whenever the eyebrows are down, you just bring them in closer. Whenever they're up, you just bring them further apart. Unless you're doing a specific, very sad face, usually most times if the eyebrows are up, they're going to be further apart. And then you grab the translation X on those controllers, and in the graph editor, you just shift them 2 frames. I think I usually shift them 2 frames before, but again, it depends on whatever feel you want to give to the eyebrow. Sometimes a part of the animation will have the offset 2 frames before, another part will have it 2 frames after. So whichever you prefer. Did that make sense on the eyebrows in terms of the TX and TY? Awesome. So the goal, awesome. The main goal is basically arcs. If you want to do the arcs manually, you can do them manually. I used to do them manually, and then one day I was at work and I thought, I don't have time to do them manually. I will offset, and it worked. So why would I do it manually? For the mouth corners, the idea is the same. The thing is, when you already, I feel like for me, what the mouth corners, the offset of the TX and TY, you need to try it out. Why? Because depending on how you blocked your shot and how you do your lip sync, the offset might not work. It might look really, really bad. In my case, it looks really bad because I like to sculpt most of my shapes. I like to have full control of it. However, there's a lot of people who do a different workflow, which is kind of like a layered approach, where they start with just animating the jaw open. And then they copy that jaw open into the mouth corners TY and TX. And then they offset there. So there you have your free arcs with everything that the jaw is doing. And then you have to, on top of that, add your expression. And that's for me when my brain just stops computing and doesn't understand how they do it. So that's why if your workflow allows it, try offsetting the curves and that's yeah, the TX and TY on the mouth corners. And if you get free arcs and your lip sync is intact and it didn't look weird for the whole shot, awesome, you got free arcs. If it didn't, then you can go and make them manually. Just basically make sure you kind of at the same as when you track the nose that you can put a motion trail, you can even put a motion trail here and check your arcs. After a while, you're just gonna see them by scrubbing through. At the beginning, you can put um, a motion trail and that will work. So whatever you prefer, uh, whatever it is, just make sure there's arcs. We love arcs. Especially on Thursdays, we love arcs. I think my nickname should be arc. Period. That's it, just one word. Okay, I hope that made sense for the mouth corners. Let's go to the rest of the notes. So here I not there. Where was it? Here. I marked this just because there's this weird bump happening. If we see it here, see how there's this? I'm not sure what is happening. Just double check because maybe you're using. I think Aya had a lower cheek control, maybe. Just double check because it would be much nicer if this were. It could be the shading. It could be just the shading. I don't know. I mean, just double check that this is nice and cute and that there's no weird bumps. If there is a weird bump and you don't know how to fix it, potentially you can fix it with blend shapes. Blend shapes are the last option in anything you do. For anyone who doesn't know how to do blend shapes, let me find the. I found this. I've looked at this so many times that I just have it there. I can't. It was in blend shapes. What was the name of the video? Oh yes, it was. Cool. So if you don't know how to do blend shapes, this is a really good video. I'm not gonna go and explain it again because I think in that video it's very well explained. The only thing you need to know with blend shapes is you can key them, but you're not gonna see the key in the timeline, and you need to just remember where your keys are, because blend shapes basically are keys where you are keys are sorry are parts where you can animate. Let's say I grab a few vertices, yeah, that's the plural, and I move them. Let's say I move them here, and I can key this so that I can turn it off when I need to, and turn it on when, and even blend it when I need to. But for some reason, the blend shape editor in Maya doesn't show your keys in the timeline. So if you put your keys in, oh, I want to put a blend shape here and then turn it off in the future, you need to go frame by frame or remember where you put it until you find your key marked in red. So blend shapes, last thing. If you can't fix that bump, blend shape. And then here, actually, I found something else. Oh no, it was part of the same thing. So I would, from 154 to 177, I would go straight into this shape. That's why I wrote get into this shape earlier. I feel like you're complicating it too much by pausing here and then going into this and then going into this. I would make that snappier, and I would actually, like I wrote here, lead with the eyes. Again, I'm not sure if Madison already mentioned this, but this expression that you have here, I would start it maybe around, I would get to it maybe around 169. So this is where you would get this higher, bigger, and then start going into this mouse shape. So you would get into this mouse shape that you have on 160, 179 around 173. The reason is you're kind of going to lead with the eyes and then the body is going to follow. And it's not that it's going to be 1, 2, but it's going to be kind of the eyes start to open and then um, the head follows, blending one motion into the other. The reason for this is that right now it feels a little bit too complicated, and it feels like her body reacts before her face. And her face, usually the face reacts before the body because it's what's connected to the brain. If you think about where our brain is and how long it takes for a signal to reach our eyes, is super fast. So it's way faster for us to react with our eyes than with our body. And also, the eyes saw it first. So they are going to react earlier than the rest of the body. And right now, your body is reacting and then the eyes. And also on the eyes, I think Madison already mentioned this, but it bears repeating. Just make sure that you're opening up the face this way. Right now, the face feels very flat in terms of how it's opening up. So the line of action feels flat. Her eyes are the same shape. Her eyebrows, everything is flat. So how can we make this a little bit better? And whatever I say for this, I would try to apply the concepts throughout the whole shot. Again, I think Madison might have mentioned it, so sorry if you have to hear this twice. But I think Aya has a squash control at the bottom. You can push that sideways to give her. Let me just do this here. You can push this sideways to give her a little bit more of a line of action. If I can draw a line of action, that would be great. Something like that. I would not do it with this one. The sculpt control, I would barely touch it. Barely. Because you can lose structure to the brain and face and the cranium very, very easily. So that one, I would just not touch it. You don't need it. But this one, the like, look at how much I can move my mouth, and if you already use it with this, like our jaw might not be able to do it, because it stays there, but you in animation you can do it and push the feeling of the line of action. And then this mouth, instead of being like this, it can have this angle. So we're already building on top of that line of action. That nose, if I can't remember on Aya, because when I was at AM, I didn't think of using the squash control. So every time I would, instead of using the squash, I would actually rotate the jaw, which was more work because then I had to rotate the nose. I think with the squash, if it's done correctly, it should also rotate the nose. So you might get that for free. If it doesn't, just rotate the nose. And then for this, just make sure one eyebrow is slightly higher than the other, and then one eye is slightly more open than the other. And try to shape the eye a little bit more, just a little bit more, so that the apex of the eyelid is in the middle of the pupil. Because when our eyes move from side to side, they change shape a lot. And I don't know if you've ever seen a close up of an eye moving side to side. I don't know if we're gonna get a good video from me just literally Googling eye close up. Let's see if this one does it. No, just look at sideways or something. She doesn't look sideways. This is not helpful. Um, let's see if we can find someone who actually looks sideways. I don't need makeup. I need someone looking sideways that I can show you guys. Let's see if this works. Well, I don't know if I will be able to find someone who actually does what I need them to do. But if you ever look at your own eye, you will be able to see how your eye shape changes. Let's see this one. This one she might look to the side. No. Okay. It's okay. Just trust me, or I can. Oh, did you find one? That would be fantastic. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. So, look at how the eye is shaping as whoops, as he moves the eye. Right now the apex is here, and then it shifts here. It's very, very subtle, but it changes a lot. Especially look at how much it changes here. Here, this is kind of his apex just because of the shape of his eyes. But basically, the reason why this happens is if you look at the eye from the side to the eyeball, the pupil and iris are kind of this thingy, and the lids rest on top of this. And so because that the pupil and the iris are basically a bump um a bump in that sphere, the lids are going to be affected by it. So this is great reference. Thank you for sending it, because I was going to spend like a million years trying to find one. Look at how much the lower lids are affected as he goes up. Look at how much they move. It's amazing. All of this is super helpful. Look at, even a lot of people forget to animate the corners of the eyes. Look at how much they move. Everything moves. It's not just the lids, it's also the corners. Also, when you blink, if you're doing a close up, your corners also kind of compress. Everything compresses. So all of this is a very good thing to study when you're doing facial animation, especially when you're doing eyes. Look at how much this is the line of the lower lid. Look how much it goes down. All of that, super helpful. And I forget what I was saying this. Oh yeah, because of the apex of the lid. So just make sure you shape it a little bit more. That was it. But also open up the face. So this slightly higher, this with an angle, and that's going to give you more appealing poses and more interesting poses as well, because asymmetry is usually more interesting than symmetrical posing. And then what else did I write? Oh, here, uh, this is a very quick word because she says what I would do, because right now your spacing is too harsh here, it goes from one frame to the other, it's close, and it's a bit too much. So what I would do is I would still keep her mouth closed here. Here you can start opening it, maybe here it can also be closed. You're gonna start opening it here, open it to where you have it here. In this one, open it a little bit more, and on this one it starts closing, just so that we get the sense of changing direction. It's just a little bit, and then you can close it. And even this, the M can be kind of a little bit lower on the lip, and on the next frame it goes up, so it feels like if she goes and so the as she closes the jaw, the lips push up. Here I would, for these S sounds that you have, I would bring the mouth corners in. I would purse the lips a little bit more. And there's a reason why I'm saying this, because we have to think about what sound is coming afterwards. So here I'm saying like pinch this and bring the mouth corners in a little bit more, because also here the S shape, you need to clench those teeth even for this frame. I would go for a more graphical O shape. Right now, this is kind of the shape that you have, kind of like this. And I mean, yes, it's a shape that you can have, it reads, but it's usually more appealing to have it more graphical. If you look at even Disney movies, when they are from the side, they try to get a little bit more graphical. Even with the U shapes, those are very, very interesting to see because they get very, very graphical. What was it that she was saying?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
And I would even potentially even bring that mouth corner a little bit more in. So that's why I want you to pinch that corner a little bit sooner, because you're going to go into the O instead of, like, you have it so far out that it feels like she's going to go into an A instead of an O.
I'm
And usually for O's and U's, we don't want the teeth showing. Right now you're showing both set of teeth. The bottom ones are very easy to hide. You just either scale them down to 0 or bring them down. For the um, top ones, sometimes it's hard to hide them because of where you have them in previous frames. You don't want them to move. Some ways that you can do it is closing the mouth a little bit more and bringing the mouth forward a little bit, because when we say sorry, we if I say sorry, my lips come out, and that's why we don't see the teeth when we say oh. Like, if I say oh, I usually don't show my teeth. But already with changing the shape of it is going to help read very, very nicely. Overlapping the face for more fleshiness. I'm not sure I'm understanding the question. What do you mean by overlapping the face? Here, don't forget to bring the tongue up for the R. Like, this shape is working really, really nicely. Just remember that the tongue needs to be up for the R. And this pose, this is where, again, my method of doing lip sync wouldn't work with offsetting the mouth corners. I like to sometimes push my posing. So for me, I would grab this pose and I would make this pose like 75 to 85% of the next pose. So it's closer to that one. It's going to pop a little bit, but I can already hear the E sound in this frame. So I would like her to be favoring that pose. Here, I would try to have a little bit of negative space between the teeth, even if it's slight. And I would try to pinch this ever so slightly. Here, I feel like the tongue stays up super long. She's like, so I would, by this frame, push it down. Laugh. Yeah, she was saying laugh, not lie.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh.
And then oh, okay. I'll go over it in a bit. So when you do blinks, something that I like to do is change how the eyes open. So the close and open, the maximum points stay the same, but the in-betweens are the ones that change. So for example, here as she comes down, you kind of have it, but you can push it a little bit more. Because she's looking at this all throughout the shot, this is going to make your life easier in the sense of you can just always have this eye be the one that's slightly more open. And when she opens it, this eye is slightly more closed. What that's going to do is, again, help with the directionality of the face. And for this, I would soften this blink for 2 more frames. And on this, I would be careful because you're moving the lower eyelids without moving the upper eyelids. Like the lower eyelids are coming down, but the upper eyelids are not moving. These eyelids don't have muscles. The only way we can move them is either because we move the upper eyelids or because this part is affecting them. But it's just because it's affecting them. Like if I go it's going to push down a little bit. But right now, even though yes, you are changing the face, you need to also affect the the upper lids and move them up. Because you're doing it but too late. See how they are moving afterwards in these frames? You need to put those movements together. And the same here again. This can be more closed. And then be careful here, your spacing. It goes from this frame to this, and there's no cushioning. You need to have, this will probably be a little bit lower, and for the next 3 frames, it's going to ease into place.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh.
Oh, and then sharpen space in laugh. I feel that right now laugh feels very soft in the way she's saying it. So here maybe I would keep this ever so slightly less open, and then you pop it open here. And I think with that is already going to help, because I think the rest works. Maybe here is when it starts to get a little bit too soft, but it doesn't bother me too much if you fix the other one.
To laugh? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh.
I think for sure what I would do is do a pass for the whole face and for the other character as well, where you push the asymmetry and you open up the face as much as you can to where she's looking at. I think that's going to help you a lot. So basically the concepts that I explained here, use them all throughout. And in terms of lead and follows, do you block that out or do you go back to it and offset them? Depends on the what you're doing. For me, I usually just block them in, but because I'm a post to post animator, I'm not a straight ahead slash, well, I'm a kind of post to post straight ahead, but I'm not a layered approach animator. So if I were to block in splines and I don't care where my keys are, then you can offset and do whatever. For me, when I'm blocking, I block everything in. Why? Because I always show my blocking in stepped. And if the director needs to see the intention that I have with the character. If the character is here and they hear something here and they look up, if I do everything where they look up and they move, it's not going to read that well. But if I have them look up and then the head follows, it's going to read better. It's also going to inform what the character is doing. Is it, let's say I'm reading a book. If I just go from here to here, doesn't tell me anything. If I go from here and I stay there for a little bit and then I move up, I'm being like, really? You're being very annoying. Or what if something super excited or like a very exciting noise happened and I want to hear what it is? I might go up a little bit and then move the head quickly. All of that, I personally like to put it in my blocking. However, sometimes when you go into spline, you realize that things could be better. And so in spline, for me, again, this is my method. If you have another one and it works for you, fantastic. It's your method. My method is I block it as much as I can. And then in spline, I first hit spline and I look at everything and cry. Once I finish crying about how terrible my animation is and I start fixing my curves, I shift things around and I offset things because sometimes I block it in and maybe there's only one frame of difference or two frames of difference between the eyes and the mouth. And maybe I want the eyes to lit for a little bit longer because it would feel better. It's about what emotion am I conveying. And if it feels better, then I offset it. I don't care. I mean, sometimes I've offset even like parts of it. Maybe I offset the just the eyebrows. Maybe I blocked it in and then I realized, you know what? It actually would be better if the eyes led instead of the eyebrows. So I just shift the eyes one frame, boom, done. So it's a hybrid of things. You need to figure out what's the best workflow for you. There's in animation there's no set in stone in terms of what you should do. If it works better for you to overlap from the start, you do you. For me, I know that there's, for example, there's people who, when they present a blocking and they do lip sync, sometimes they leave the whole body. Like, let's say it's a subtle shot and the body is barely moving. Let's just say I'm just talking like this and I'm barely moving. Some people leave the whole body static and just do the face. I can't do that. It gives me anxiety. I need to at least add a little bit of motion to the body. To each their own, whatever makes you happy. So I think those are my main notes for the lip sync and kind of the face. But let me see if I can give you something on the body before I let you escape from the torture that is my notes. So for the body, this is something that when I saw it, it caught my eye. It doesn't mean it's bad, and it doesn't mean you need to do it. But I would try it just to see how it looks. I would try to have the leg kind of follow the branch a little bit more. Why? I don't know. It's just that negative space catches my attention and it distracts me from the shot. Maybe it's just me, but that's the reason why. It's not that just that I'm saying, oh, it would look more pretty if you did this. It's just because it really caught my eye. and I should be looking at the if not at her. Everything that's happening here is secondary. So if you want to try it, feel free. If you don't do it. And I'm not gonna get angry if you don't. Nah, honestly, you need to try it and offset things. Worst case, just undo. Just save a version to make sure that you can go back to it. Sometimes what I do is I put I before I offset things, I set my buffer curves to my current version. I offset whatever I want, and my buffer curves are there. If I don't like what I see and I made a mess of everything, I literally just have to click one button and it goes back to what I had. Then remember to set your buffer curves again so that you don't accidentally go back to the other buffer curves. Buffer curves are your BFFs. They're the best thing.
Those kind are poison? Those kind are poison? I'm
So here, this the first shot I think in terms of um her
Those
it did
kind are
pretty
poison?
well. Let me see the other girl because I hadn't paid attention to her. So for her, I think this works nicely. I think potentially, and this is just me being annoying, but you know what? You chose to come to us for feedback, so it's your fault, not mine. And also, we're getting close to 10 p.m. here, so it means my brain will be very scattered. But look at this arc. Do you see it? It's not an arc. You need to arc this a little bit more. Ever so slightly. It's just me being annoying, but trust me, arcs are your nice friends that you didn't know you needed. Oh my god, go to sleep. 2:21 a.m. is too much. You can potentially even start this here so that then you can arc it like this and you end up in the same place without having to change the arc so much. And why can't I draw a line? You get it. I hope. It's an arc. Or it should be. Oh, question. Did you do, because you're polishing, right? Did you do connectivity passes between the hips, chest, neck, head, and the face? Okay, I'll go over it then, because I feel like you could potentially do it. Here, when she spits, I think you can push it even more, because I love what the face, I'll go over it now, what the face is doing. But again, I feel like you can push the arc a little bit more, because right now the arc is a little bit kind of like it's just stopping there. You can, I feel like here you can spit even with this angle and spit and then overshoot that way. But I think that you can also push the body, like you can even stretch kind of the body a little bit so that the face, this is too much, but basically so that it arcs like this, so it's like so that there's a little bit more force to it. And the same with the hand. I think that this one, it's okay to leave it as is, although be careful because here it's starting to feel a little bit stuck in place. But also here, I feel like you can get a little bit more negative space with the hand. So when she drops this, the hand, again, arcs, can go kind of up and down a little bit with an arc. Yes, a little bit more overlap with the head, but not just overlap, also like right now she's just going like this. You can go so her whole body moves forward a little bit more. That feeling where it's the whole thing moving forward and not just the head, if that makes sense. Then, okay, so then from this to this, her arms are moving completely at the same time, at the same rate, the same amount, the same everything. So, what I would like to see is a little bit of offset. Maybe this hand drags a little bit behind and gets there slightly later so that it's 1 2 instead of everything moving at the same time. And then for connectivity paths, there's a few things that you can do. For the body, you basically copy. I'm gonna write this down because it's not that it's tricky, but there's a thing to it. So you copy the TY on the hips into the TY on the chest. Whether you use IK or FK, whatever, whichever is the top control that you were using. And you offset by 1 frame. Then once you copy the TY, that body, like the chest, is gonna stretch like crazy. So you need to tone that down until you feel a slight stretch and compression, but not too much. Then you can either copy the same curve, the TY on the hips, or you can copy this one, which is already a toned down version. And you copy, yes, the top spine control. And you copy the TY um, into the TY of the neck. And again, you offset by 1 frame. And again, you tone it down. And then again, you can copy whichever, like basically the curve is the same, it just gets progressively smaller. And then you do it again to the head, TY, and you offset by 1 frame. What that's going to give you is going to give you like a it's super subtle, but it's going to give you like a little bit of fleshiness to the body. This is polish. If you are done and you think, okay, I'm like my hips are amazing, everything works well, then you do it. You never do this in spline because this is polish. Because things can change in spline. We don't want that. Now, for the face, this is where it gets super fun, at least for me, because I personally really like facial animation. So for the face, let's go here. There's a few things you can do. Depends on how big of a close-up you have, the more polish you can do. In this shots, you don't have a big close-up, so we're not going to really focus on a lot, but I'm going to mention them anyway. So you grab the jaw open and close. You polish that curve until it's beautiful, beautiful in the sense of it works like it has to. And then what you do is you copy the jaw open and close to the tip of the nose. And at that one, I think it was like 1-to-1 movement. Then you again tone it down. It doesn't have to move a lot. It's just a little bit of motion. Then cheeks. This is where you can choose the easy version or the hard version. The easy version is you copy the jaw open and close. You copy it into the cheeks, into the controllers here, all of the ones that are here in the eyes, and you copy it into the TY basically. And on the cheeks, it's TY and TX. So every time I open my mouth, my cheeks go in. Every time I close, my cheeks go out. That one is also 1-to-1, and tone it down. It's just a little bit so that there's fleshiness to it. The hard way to do this, which is my method, just because I don't trust myself, is I copy my mouth corners and I do that for each side of the face. The reason why I do this is that sometimes I push, let's say there's like a very specific smile where it goes from this and then it changes to this. That's not going to be noticeable in the jaw, and this is pushing my cheek up way more than the other side. Like if I do this, this is going to be higher than this. So I personally like to do it 1-to-1, but a lot of people do the other method because it works. It's just me that I'm annoying. Um oh, that's great. Great to hear. Uh that it was something to keep you entertained. Well, good luck with your shot. And so that is for this area. Then you also do it to the nostrils. Same thing. You can either do each mouth corner or you can do just the open. Basically, when the jaw opens, my nose, my nostrils come down and in. When my jaw closes, let's say I smile, my look at how much it moves. My nose comes, like my nostrils come outward and up. So all of that needs to be connected, because then if not, it feels like the nose is static and it doesn't move. Then every time the jaw opens, depending on your expression that you're doing, like if I'm doing and I'm closing my eyes, it's not going to be the same. But if my jaw opens, usually my lower lids are going to be connected to that and are going to drag a little bit more. Then, for if you're doing a very, very big close up, you can also animate the ears. So the ears come down when the jaw opens. Then, for blinks, just make sure, again, you can touch your face and see this for yourself. I usually touch it just because it's easier. Like, I put my fingers in my eye corners and I close my eyes and I try to feel it out. And when you close your eyes, your eye corners come, let me just, down and in, like in, they kind of it's like everything is compressing. So that's another thing that you can work on. And then this is, again, very, I would not do it. Then if I do it, it's very slight, but it's for very pushed expressions. If you see my line of my hair, when I do this, my eyeline compresses, like it goes closer to my eyebrows. And then when I relax, it comes back down. You can do that with the upper squash by bringing it back and forward. I would, that one is like I would do it pixels. I would not do it a lot because you can start losing structure very, very quickly. So those are some polish tips that I have. I'm sure there's a lot more that I'm not aware of. These are the ones that I know. I would do a pass on that as well, on all of this, because it's going to take your shot from yeah to ooh, interesting. Look at that. Look at the nose doing this. So I think those are my main notes for you today. Um, I hope they made sense. Do you have any questions? And also, just as a reminder, if there's people here who joined later, feel free to join us everywhere, and like to Discord and follow us and everything. Yeah, no problem. I think I'm not, I don't know if, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's very long. I was just thinking, should I open for feedback? I mean, if anyone has a very short shot that they want me to look at, or they're struggling with anything specific, let's say you are doing a shot and your mentor said something and you don't know how to apply it, or oh, I had this note that I needed to apply, how do I do it, or I did it, does it work? If anyone has those type of shots that they want me to look at rather than whole feedback, I'd be open to stay for, like, let's say 30 more minutes. So if anyone has anything like that that they want me to see, feel free to post the links here on the chat. I will also check Discord just in case. Yes, I will remind people of Ray in a little bit. I'm not the best at cameras, but yeah, let's try. I suck at cameras, but it's worth a try because why not? What should I look at? There's a lot of things. Okay. Um, one. Yeah, in terms of the sync sketch problem, I'm not sure how it's why it's what is happening with sync sketch. Sync sketch is having a lot of issues lately where sometimes the more you play a shot, the more the audio gets offset, and sometimes also what's happening is the first frame gets duplicated. I'm not sure why that's happening. That's a sync sketch problem. Speaking of sync sketch, for anyone who's interested, let me just find it here, and I swear I will go over this. Just my brain is going to forget if I don't share this right now. So let me just find something because I was approached by a friend of a friend who is actually literally a friend of a friend, not just a friend of a friend, who is working on a plugin slash website where it's basically kind of like Sync Sketch, but it's a plugin for Maya as well. I've I haven't used it yet, so I'm not sure how it works. I'm not sure how well it's working because I think it's pretty new. But uh it's worth a try. If you guys want to try this instead of Sync Sketch, feel free. I honestly, like, I'm gonna open this to see. I think you can draw over and give notes just like any other thing. I'm not sure. I think you can. Yes, there's things here. So if you want to try that and see if it works with your shot in terms of what Sync Sketch is doing versus this, I would give it a go. Um, Yeah, no, totally. Whenever I say something, if there's a frame where I tell you there's an S in this one frame and it's just one frame of a difference, just double check with Maya, and not just with Maya. Check with a play blast because sometimes you hear it on Maya, but when you play blast, it doesn't go through. So that's why I use what I mentioned before, a keyframe MP or a keyframe MP Pro, whichever or whatever you have where you can scrub through audio that isn't Maya. Um, Scrub through there and see if it matches because sometimes Maya is the problem rather. I don't know if it's because I have the pro version, but for me, if I go to audio, I have this. Again, I don't know if it's the pro version, but for me, I can scrub. Uh, I personally super recommend the pro version. If you can, if yeah, can you see it here? If you go to audio and you check, just make sure the audio scrub is checked, and then you just grab any shot that you want. Let me find any from my old AM stuff, which I know I can show without anyone telling me off. Where are my things? I don't know if this has audio, but I can scrub. Okay, if it's a pro feature, I personally would really recommend it. Yeah, honestly, the annotations are really useful as well. You come here, you go to tools, and you can get the annotation tools and you can draw over, and it's super useful. Yeah, maybe. Honestly, I know it's money and it's uh, quite a lot depending on the country that you come from, but it's a lifetime thing. You just buy it once and you never have to buy another software again. I used to use QuickTime back in the day, and then QuickTime got discontinued, and now this one is honestly a very good version and it's very lightweight. It lets me crop, no, not crop, but like stitch references. So sometimes I use this as my editing software instead of having to open Premiere, and it's very heavy and it takes forever, and I need to export it and it takes forever. I just open this and it's very lightweight. So let's look at this. Okay. I think, again, I'm not the best at cameras, but yeah, no problem. But I think this part is not reading too well. And what I would do, let me see what it is. I would maybe just hold this for a little bit longer. Yeah, that's why. Maybe that's the reason why. I would just hold this for a little bit longer so that we feel that. And I would start moving the camera. Maybe by here, it's a little bit faster already, so that we don't lose the character completely. Because right now we lose the character too quickly. So maybe by here we see a little bit more. Sorry for the crappy drawings. Like literally scribbles. In terms of how the camera moves, I think it could work, but maybe here you can position this so that the character is a little bit more there, just because he would, like, the person who's doing the camera sees the character moving that way, so they're going to think that the character is going to keep on moving. So even if they stop a little bit, the cameraman is going to take a while for them to finish. This one, cool. Is it playing? What is this? Okay, there we go. Yeah, I would still, like, I wouldn't, if you're gonna get this close to the camera, I feel like he would need to get off screen. Again, this is just my take on it. So I would just have the camera keep moving so that when he's coming, like, anticipating and then jumping, he's a little bit more here. And then that jump is going to be the one that moves the camera that way, instead of already being so close to the other side, because it doesn't leave that much room to move. But I think other than that, I think that the camera is probably going to work. What I would do is, instead of doing it with drawings, do a layout pass with a character. It can be like literally a character in a T-pose, and just move it around with the speed that you want. Or if you want to use a ball, you can use a ball as well to figure out the timing. But a character is good to figure out the size, and just have it do what you need to do in the speed that you need, and that's going to be way helpful to see if it reads. But yeah, those are my 2 cents on your camera. Hope that helped. Looks like a fun shot. So if anyone has anything else that they want me to see that is quick and not a full shot, that'd be great. Let me see if anyone posted anything on uh sync on Discord. So far, nothing. So if no one has any questions or things that they want to, if they want to have me look at or talk about, then I might let you all go. This time I was smart and I had food before the stream, so I'm not super hungry. But yeah, let me just stop sharing. And yeah, so if everyone is cool and we're all good in here, then I wish you all a really good weekend and week. Don't forget tomorrow at 1 p.m. PST. Feedback with thank you. You're so kind. Feedback with Madison, and then Saturday 1 p.m. PST. Interview with Ray Ross. Do not miss it. I'm telling you, like, yeah, okay, fine, you can miss it and watch it later, but why would you? You lose the opportunity of seeing him live and potentially ask him questions. And if you have questions, you can send them to us. Yes, Ray's Bay. You can send them to us on Discord, Instagram, personally to wherever we exist on social media, whatever it is, just send them to us because he's amazing. He also loves answering questions, so wherever it is, send it to us. Yes, the dad jokes are unparalleled. They are amazing. And for anyone who's thinking of getting into class 4 at Animation Mentor, get Ray Roth. Why would you choose anyone else? Like, do you not like learning? No, I'm kidding. But seriously, he's amazing. His lectures are just incredible. He teaches you how to think like an animator. So watch us on Saturday, shower Ray with more compliments, like we do pretty much every day of our lives. And that's it. Have a great rest of your Thursday or Friday morning if it's like 2 a.m. Yeah, if you want race class, you need to. I think they open at 11 a.m. PST. By 11:01, all of the spots are taken. So you need to be very, very quick. I have two friends who were very, very lucky and they were sweating trying to get into his class. So yeah. So I'm gonna go and everyone have a super amazing rest of the week. Have a good one. Bye.